Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, holy frickin' moly, I guess we're at the point where liberals are just admitting it. You know, it was a pretty big debate for at least a year and a half, but now I guess top Democrat strategists are just admitting it. And folks, this might be one of the biggest political admissions ever caught on camera. A top Democrat strategist, who I believe was working for Pete Buttigieg at some point, literally just took to CNN and confirmed what we've been saying for years, that the convictions against Donald J. Trump in the 2024 election were never about justice or protecting democracy. They were part of the Democrat electoral strategy. They were political warfare disguised as just simple courtroom procedure. Nothing to see here, folks. Just the justice system doing its thing. Yeah, obviously that was never the case, and we were called conspiracy theorists. We were called MAGA cult loyalists for even suggesting that these cases were BS, and now they're just casually admitting it like it's no frickin' big deal. As if weaponizing the legal system against a political opponent is somehow normal. You know, just typical electoral strategy. Wait till you guys see this absolutely stunning admission. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so here is Liz Smith, a Democrat insider, longtime advisor to Pete Buttigieg. I wonder how this'll work, by the way, if he's attempting to run for president in 2024, which he obviously will. Well anyways, here's Pete Buttigieg's top advisor now sitting on CNN and openly saying that the impeachments and the prosecutions, even the bogus felony conviction against Trump, were all part of an organized resistance to stop him from winning in 2024.
Why the base is mad at some of the leaders in Washington is not because they're not left enough. It's because, Chuck Schumer came out with no strategy, no forewarning, and just said, we're going to fold on the CR. I mean, I think he could have done a better job of explaining what the strategy was and what we're going to do, but there wasn't anything like that. We resisted so hard between 2017 and 2024. We impeached the guy, like we prosecuted him, convicted him of 34 felony counts, and guess what? He still got elected. So I don't know how much harder we can resist now.
Are you admitting that that the case against Trump in New York was part of the organized Democratic Party resistance?
It was a Democratic prosecutor, and at the time, I said I thought it was unwise. I went on Fox News and said.
There were Democrats who said this at the time.
There were a lot.
Just to be clear, everybody who now touts the 34 felonies, take it from Liz. This was not a real case. This was a plot to upend the presidential campaign, which backfired.
I just think it was a boneheaded move by Alvin Bragg.
Holy frickin' moly. An absolute disgraceful abuse of power. And the way she admits it so casually, it's mind-boggling. Like she's discussing benign campaign strategy, not a criminal abuse of the justice system. And talk about election interference. Talk about fascistic authoritarian abuse of power. These people interfered with the 2024 election using Lawfare, and now they seem to be bragging about it. Oh, well, we tried that, it didn't work. And all this as they called us crazy for suggesting it for years. They swore, no, it wasn't political. No, Alvin Bragg was just doing his job. All those clips of Letitia James promising to go after the president, just a figment of your imagination. So many Democrats looking straight into the camera for years, telling the American people that anyone questioning these prosecutions, that was the real attack on democracy. But who was really attacking democracy? And now obviously there's no more debate, right? This is now confirmed the single biggest political scandal in modern American history. It strikes at the very foundation of what separates a free nation from a corrupt authoritarian regime: equal justice under the law. The moment a ruling party uses prosecutions and judges as weapons to eliminate their political opposition, that's when everything starts to fall apart. Democrats obviously took things to a whole new level. They opened a Pandora's box. It wasn't enough to just smear President Trump. It wasn't enough to constantly lie, to clip him out of context, to misrepresent his words, to incite violence against him. No, they took it a whole step further, coordinating impeachments, lawfare, indictments, felony convictions, weaponizing the judicial system to interfere in an election. They wanted to imprison their political opponents. And these are the people who lecture us about Putin, right? Putin, the war criminal, the dictator. Well, that's exactly the kind of thing that Vladimir Putin does. They abused the justice system, corrupted prosecutorial power, and very clearly violated constitutional boundaries with full media protection while doing it. Sounds exactly like Soviet Russia. They They've captured the justice system, they have their propaganda arm, label your political opponent a criminal. If you don't have a crime, then invent one or attempt to find one and twist and manipulate the facts in order to justify it. And then instead of legitimately winning in the election, just throw him behind bars. That's what they tried doing. This great president. They tried putting him in prison for the rest of his life, hitting him with multi-decades worth of charges. The man's 80 years old. They were willing to put President Trump in prison for the rest of his life rather than accepting the results of an American election. The party of democracy, by the way, the same type of systemic political persecution, exactly the thing that America once condemned and fought wars against. And don't think for a second, don't be naive enough to think that the Lawfare operation is over. No, they're still doing it in real time. Look at what's happening in the courts right now. You got all these left-wing activist judges who seem to be completely ignoring the separations of power, ignoring constitutional limits, behaving as if they outrank the president of the United States. Just last week, a judge ruled that Trump can federalize the National Guard in Chicago, but he can't deploy them. How does that even make sense? There was also another ruling that just simply blocked ICE enforcement. We've got corrupt, idiot left-wing judges who are assuming executive power to make stupid decisions like ICE can't enforce federal law. How insane is that? So many of these rulings and injunctions are so clearly political, they make no sense. Even CNN's ragging on them.
I don't know where this judge thinks she gets off essentially becoming the chief of ICE operations. I mean, she cannot micromanage, tell them you have to wear body cameras. I mean, that might be a good idea, but that's an overstep. She's going to get reversed by a court of appeals eventually. Maybe the Supreme Court, maybe the circuit court. Because what are these? They're cops, essentially, right? They're immigration cops. Are they supposed to go to her and say, well, Your Honor, we want to take a door. Do we have your permission? Your Honor, when should we have our body cameras on? Do we need it during breaks? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that the chief of police or the ASAC would do federally.
Are they supposed to have the body-worn cameras on?
So federal policy varies by agency on that. Different municipalities, most municipalities require it. But again, for the judge to just, this is a perfect example, for the judge to say, you must have body cameras and have them on at all times, that's bad policy. Because what if you go into the home of a domestic violence scene and a victim doesn't want to be shown on camera? I've done these policies. You have to enable the police officer to turn them off to protect victims, to protect privacy. This is why it's a mismatch for a federal judge to try to micromanage the street level operations of ICE or any police force.
It's ruling after ruling that is completely out of bounds of the judge's authority. You know, it's that meme, I am the captain now, right? The corrupt Soros judge is looking at President Trump and saying, I am the president now. It's insane. And it's all part of this attack on the American legal system. And the media wonders why people are losing faith in institutions. Well, this right here, this is why people are sick of this corrupt political class. They pretend to defend democracy, right? Democracy this, democracy that, all while tearing it apart from the inside. They'll tell you with a straight face that Trump is threatening institutions. Oh, he's going after his political opponents and journalists. But they're the ones doing that. They're the ones corrupting the courts and tearing down the Constitution in order to cling on to power. You know, Joe Biden probably did commit literal crimes through his son Hunter Biden as a proxy in foreign nations. But guess what? In 2020, when he was supposedly clinging on to power, when they were telling us that he was going to stay in there forever, he didn't try putting Joe Biden in prison. But they did. They absolutely did. And now they seem to be just openly admitting it on CNN, on national TV. Probably because they don't fear the consequences. They feel like they run the institutions of power. And I gotta tell you, that's a dangerous level of arrogance. These people are doing untold amounts of damage, and it's hard to say whether this stops. You know, when you've crossed the Rubicon like that, how do you put the genie back in the bottle? This entire disgraceful abuse of power is going to go down as one of the darkest stains in American political history. I mean, how the hell can America judge the rest of the world with this on its track record? What the Democrats have done here is so utterly inexcusable, so wrong, so unconstitutional, so unethical, so corrupt, so illegal. And the sad thing is, I don't think we've seen the full damage just yet. I don't know how anybody can support this party when this is the kind of thing that their top thinkers are admitting on national TV. Completely frickin' insane. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.